Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. So each of the companies help you in buying rackets. So they categorize each racket by level of play. But how and why do they do that? Stay tuned. All right, guys, so every company, every major company on the market tries to help you by categorizing their rackets. Now, it's kind of broken down by kind of beginner into intermediate, intermediate in itself, and then kind of high intermediate to advanced. So there's three major categories: beginner, intermediate, and advanced, obviously. Now, I'm not sure why they do it this way, but I'm going to explain to you how they do it and maybe shed some light as to, what their thought process is. So let's start with beginners. The companies seem to think that, I'm talking all the companies: Wilson, Babolat, Head, so on, Dunlop, even Vocal. Each of these companies think that the beginner, for some reason, wants a bigger headed racket with a lighter, the lighter weight, right? And headlight. So, I guess if you just want to go out and have fun, right, you can get a big light racket and just have fun as a beginner. But they kind of pigeonhole that category as, let's say an older person too, because the rackets are bigger, right? Like this 115 Instinct Power, this giant Dunlop 10.0, right? And this Astral 115. So all of these are under 10 ounces, probably close to 9 ounces before strings. They're big, light, and thick, right? You see the beams on these guys? So before, Wilson used to categorize these type of rackets as game improvement, which means it'll improve your game pretty much immediately. You don't have to do much with these rackets to get a lot of power. So if you're swinging for the fence, you're going to hit the fence a lot with these rackets because that's what they're meant for. So beginners, these are what they call beginners. So, I guess they're saying that beginners and the older crowd, the retirees, kind of would use the same rackets, which are these. So, and that is, one of the smaller categories in the market. So maybe they don't put much thought into that stuff and they just categorize it as a beginner racket, right? Moving on to intermediate, which is our biggest category with the most rackets in line. I'm going to show you the top three basically in sales and in the intermediate line. Obviously the Pure Drive, right? We got the Clash and we got the Arrow, right? These are pretty much very similar characteristics. All 100 square inches. We got 10.4 here. We got 10.6 on these two. So, it's a huge and it's a major part of what tennis is all about. Most people will fall into this category. These three rackets have been the #1 selling racket and the other two have been the second most selling racket and the third best selling racket in the nation for, man, I don't know how many years now, at least 10. You know, it's been one of these three, you know, Clash being the latest one before Clash was made. But these two have been dominating the market. These two have been dominating the market for 10 years. Number one and number two here. Characteristics is more plow, more spin, but dominating intermediate category, right? So we move back into now a pro level racket. Now, what is the characteristic of a pro level racket? Smaller, heavier, thinner, right? These guys are smaller, right? 97, 100 for this one. So a pro level racket will range from like a 93 up to a 100. But the beam is going to be thinner, right? They are going to be a little heavier, and they're going to be meant for more control, right? You're going to have to be pretty strong, right? Pretty good competitor. Definitely know what you're doing. Don't have to be a college level player, but you're going to have to be in pretty good shape and pretty strong to wield these around. So, I mean, that doesn't mean that a beginner can't use these, and it doesn't mean that an intermediate can't use these. It just depends on your swing style, okay? But this is what the companies say. This is an advanced pro level racket, okay? And I'm sure you and everybody out there should agree with that, because these are meant for the pro level player, right? Whether the pros play with this or not, this is what is made for that player, okay? Heavier. Now, I'm going to break it down for you a little bit more here. As in terms of sales, right? There's a reason why the companies put the most effort into this category, because it's the biggest category. 70% of the tennis playing community will play with a racket like this, right? And these rackets tend to be anywhere from 98 square inches to 107 square inches, maybe even 108. Throw in a 110 in there once in a while, and it's, you know, it works too. But they usually are that head size. The weight is like 10.4 up to like a 10.8, right? So if you make a racket like this, or if the companies make a racket like this, most of the sales for these guys will be in this intermediate category, right? Now, when you look at beginners, right, you're gonna go definitely starting at 100 square inches, right, up to infinity, which is 137, which is a big bubba, right? So they're saying bigger, lighter, right, which is, you know, kind of true. I would say 100 would suit most people, but for the people who just want to go out, bang the ball around, these are great, right? But characteristics of these are 9 ounces to 10 ounces. So definitely lighter on these. Now on the other 15%, so it's 70% in this category, right? And then 15 on the other two. So we got 15 on the beginner rackets, and then we got 15 on the players rackets now. Usually, like I said, 93 square inches to 100 square inches. The weight on these will be definitely higher. So 10.8 to 12, and 12 being the Fed racket, right? So those are the characteristics of a player's racket. Smaller, thinner, heavier. But again, that doesn't mean beginners can't use it either. In my opinion, if you're young, like if you're in your teenagers or you're 20, right, and you're a beginner, you definitely don't want these. You definitely don't want these. Even though you categorize yourself as a beginner, it would be way better to start in these two categories, right? These two categories, intermediate to advanced level player rackets. When I was growing up, there was only one choice. It was a wooden racket or a wooden racket or a wooden racket. So it was wood or nothing. Steel came along a little later. So you had I think that thing was like a 65, 75 square inch head. So that's all we had though. And for a beginner who's young and want to learn the game, I actually suggest you trying maybe an advanced level racket, but on the lighter side. Let's say a pro staff, but not the Fed, right? The lighter stand in the 310 or the 100 version. The MP or the S version of the Speed would be perfect for you guys. It'll actually teach you how to swing correctly, because you're going to have to swing and follow through on each shot. So that's what I suggest you do. Try to get, a good high intermediate to advanced level racket, and you'll learn the game the right way, just because you can't cheat as much. But if you're just going to be a weekend warrior and have fun, right? These are great. These are wonderful. You can play league. You can grow with these rackets. You'll gain immediate power. You'll gain immediate feel. And it's easy to play with, right? There's a reason why these have stood, the past 10 to 15 to 20 years, right? Everybody plays with these. It's easy to play with these. So that is why, so this is the reason why these are categorized the way they are by the manufacturers. But I'm telling you that it wouldn't hurt to, not everybody really should be playing with these. That's just the honest truth. I know young people play with this because it's easy power, and you don't need it. I know it's good and it's fun, but you're never going to learn the game with these. Those are for a specific person, but anybody and everybody should play with these two categories. All right, so hope you learned something today about how the manufacturers categorize the rackets and how, they have to do this just to help you out, but that doesn't mean you have to follow those guidelines. All right, thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.